Marketing can feel insanely overwhelming, and it's frustrating because no matter what you try, it feels like nothing really properly works. Some minor wins, but nothing you feel that makes you feel you've got full control. Well, I have good news. In this video, I'm going to walk through the most simple, efficient, and effective client acquisition system possible. It is a framework I have been dedicated to building over the last few years, and it's been tested with millions in ad spend, with over 100 different clients, and it's generated over 250,000 inbound leads. So first, we're going to look at how we can start attracting prospects to us so that they come to us instead of us having to chase them. Then we're going to look at how we can set up a one-time sales call engine that basically runs on autopilot so that we just keep getting calls booked into our diary without having to really do anything. And then finally, what we're going to do is we're going to look at how we can take those prospects, those leads, and turn them into high intent buyers who want to buy from us. So it's not even hard to close them. Now, the way that most B2B marketing works is the equivalent of going into a bar, walking up to a girl you like the look of, and immediately asking them to marry you. You pitch that people on LinkedIn, hey, we do this thing, here's a list of all our features, do you want to work with us? And unsurprisingly, it just doesn't seem to work. But why doesn't that work? Because logically it should. Now, let's look at that example of the bar. Option one is we go into the bar and we ask someone immediately to marry us, and they don't know who we are, so they obviously say no. That's not to say that person wouldn't marry us though. If we go into the bar and we start speaking to that person, we build a relationship with them over a period of time, and then we go on a date with them, and then we date them for a year, and then we ask them to marry us, then the chances of them saying yes is far higher. And that is how B2B marketing should work. But practically, what's happening behind all that? Well, it all comes down to a mix of trust and time or touch points. Now, most of the advice you see online actually isn't really designed for B2B, it's B2C marketing, which is way more direct. If I'm a roofing company and there's someone out there with a hole in their roof with water leaking on their head, I do not need to build trust over a 6-month period before they're going to buy from me. However, in a B2B environment, it's more like entering into a relationship. We have to change systems, our entire business, or we know we're going to be working with this person or this company for months potentially. Also, financially, it's usually a far greater investment. The more someone is exposed to our service or product, the more likely they are to take the dive and try and use it. And if we build enough trust over time and then we ask for the sales call or the sale, the chance of them saying yes to us is far greater. Now, there are two rules that underlie this system, and they both come from the world of dating and pickup artists. So the first rule is called the 7-hour rule, and that rule basically means that you need 7 hours of interaction or comfort building for someone to enter the next level of relationship with you, whatever that means to you. And that same rule applies to B2B marketing. Now, there's two ways we could do this. The first thing is we could, in that bar analogy, we could go up to someone we like and we could speak to them just for 7 hours before we ask them out on a date. The problem is that's probably not going to go down particularly well. It's really hard to just intently speak to someone for 7 hours straight. Probably not going to happen that way. But the good news is there's another rule which makes this whole thing a lot easier, and that rule is called multiple hits. What multiple hits means is that if you interact with someone in different contexts, i.e. different places and multiple different times for short periods of time, it actually warps the perception of time. And I'm going to practically talk you through how we do that in a second. Now, these are some examples of people who we've worked with who have implemented these exact principles, and you can see it works for them. Even people asking us to turn off their marketing because they're overwhelmed with new business. When was the last time you had that feeling? Or closing 40,000 euros worth of new business with only 2,000 in ad spend? Or closing a $33,000 deal from LinkedIn with someone just booking into your diary through Calendly? So once you start actually putting this principle into practice, it leads to insane results. Now, there were 3 problems that I identified that were stopping people getting to that position of predictability and consistency. So the first problem. Now, my mum used to come in and help us out with lead generation. She'd look through companies' websites and basically see if they were qualified, if we could potentially help them. And quite often when she came in, I would hear over my shoulder her complaining, like,
this website, it's just a picture and then words that, do you know what? You need a degree to understand them.
And that is the first problem. People can't understand what it is you actually do. There's confusing marketing messaging. It sounds great in a boardroom and it's blue sky thinking, but it means all to anyone who's not in your organization. But let's say you have sorted out your messaging. People do understand what it is you do. The next is you just don't have a system to bring you in clients on demand. It's all over the place. It's coming from everywhere. It's not controlled. All you need is a system. So that's what the second thing we need. We need a consistent and predictable system to bring in sales calls. And the third problem is that, yeah, you can get calls in the diary, but then all of a sudden no one really closes and you're like, well, I mean, we resolved that problem with calls coming in. So is it that all of the leads we get are unqualified? And it's like, no, not really. The problem there is you're just not building trust with prospects. Now, I came up with 3 core solutions to these problems. So the messaging problem. The first thing we're going to do is we're just going to clarify your marketing messaging. And we're going to do this with 2 things. First is the offer generator, and second is the conversion accelerator. Next up, to make sure that we actually have sales calls coming in the diary, we're going to set up a sales call engine. And to do this, we're going to use the pipeline reactivator, the prospecting playbook, and the ads masterclass. And finally, to make sure those prospects actually close, we're going to build trust and convert. And we're going to do this with the nurture autopilot and the follow-up flow. By the way, if at any point you want to implement this with my help, there is a link below to my LinkedIn profile. Just send me a DM or a connection request with a note saying details and we'll have a quick chat. You can actually attract people to you. So instead of you having to approach them, they will approach you. And to do that, we need to completely shift the dynamic. And we found this when we started running ads. So we had this system for advertising and it worked really, really well for quite a few people. So we started rolling it out for other people and we found that for some people it was working fantastically well, like changing their business. And then for other people, it just wasn't really working. We were like, but we're doing the same thing. Why is it working for some people and not for others? And it genuinely took me about a year to properly understand this. And what I learned is that it all came down to a mix of your offer and your audience. Also, this does not mean that you need to change your service. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna package it in chocolate, in something really nice, so that it's actually appealing. And to start this, under clarify messaging, we're gonna use the offer generator. Now to do this, we first off need to have an actual understanding of our target audience's pains and desires. If you can repeat back to your target audience what their pains and desires are, better than they can articulate it themselves, you're gonna have a really easy time. Also, another fantastic way to gain this information is by recording sales calls and just listening back to what people say. You'll find very frequently there are patterns in what people say. People will say they have the same problems, they'll have the same emotional problems and the same tangible physical problems. They'll also roughly have the same desires. They'll want the same things. Once you start finding those patterns, that's what you need to start focusing on. Now we want to make our time rolling out this whole framework as easy and as quick as possible. So what we're going to do is we're going to train our own GPT. So you can create your own GPT, which costs nearly nothing, which acts as a marketing assistant. And trust me, it's better than 99% of most actual marketing assistants. Okay, so now we've got our GPT set up, we're going to create an offer. What we're going to do is we're going to pour all of our target audience's pains and desires into this new packaging. And the best packaging we found, really straightforward, it's saying we help target audience as they describe themselves achieve, and that's a tangible outcome in a time period which seems reasonable and achievable. So then we need to explain how we're going to do that. What is the delivery mechanism? And that delivery mechanism is often your USP. That's what sets you aside from other people. And then people start to question it, like, yeah, but I'm probably going to have to do this thing that I don't want to do. So we put in without something you're currently doing that you don't want to do. So let's run through an example. We help B2B service providers and SaaS companies get 10 high intent sales calls every month on autopilot within the next 30 days with our unique delivery mechanism, which is called the Controlled Growth Framework, and without you having to do any icky sales calls and using pushy, pitchy tactics. Now, I spent thousands on variations of my old website. I paid a professional designer, spent weeks building the thing, and you know what I got for all of that? I got 1 to 2 inquiries every 6 months. But once I implemented this next point, my website became a conversion machine. So what we're now going to do is focus on something called the conversion accelerator, which is going to allow us to increase the effectiveness of all our existing marketing channels. So we're going to take that new messaging we've got and we're going to roll it out across our LinkedIn profile. We're also going to build out a very, very simple landing page sequence. But as a high level overview, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be stating the outcome someone's going to get by using us. Then we're going to ground that statement by stating communicating how we're going to achieve that. Then we're going to dig into the pains someone is currently experiencing. And then we're going to talk them through the steps that are going to be taken to bring them to the solution. And then once they've submitted their lead information, they're immediately pushed to a calendar booking tool. And that calendar booking tool means that everyone who makes an inquiry then books directly into your calendar. So you don't even have to chase them. Then once they've booked into our calendar, we're going to send them onto a video. And that video is going to start priming them to use our service, building that 7 hours of trust. So now that we've done that, we have a solid foundation. We actually have a traction. But unfortunately, if you leave it there, your vanity metrics will look great on paper, but you still won't be converting any clients. What you'll find is, yeah, a lot of conversations will start, but unfortunately, you still can't get any dates and no one will want to marry you still. God damn it. So this is where we build a sales call engine. And this operates like a top business development rep working for you 24/7, 365 days a year. Only with the caveats that they are a fraction of the price, they bring in better results, and they're less dramatic. So that's a bonus. Also, we want to start getting results really quickly so that we can start building momentum. And this next thing I'm going to run through costs you absolutely nothing, but it was responsible for these results, such as 5 meetings being booked for 0 cost within the first 7 days of implementing this. Or Leah here, who closed $12,000 worth of new business, again, with absolutely 0 spend. Now, to explain how this works, there are 4 core methods of client acquisition. We can either speak to people who know us, part of a warm audience, or we can speak to strangers, part of a cold audience. And we can either speak to these people one-on-one through direct communication, or we can speak one-to-many by posting stuff publicly, which generally is either content or ads. Now, the easiest of all of these 4 different methods of client acquisition is warm outreach. Why is it so easy? Because they already know, like, and trust us. And this is why most people struggle. They only actually master, if you can even call it mastering, warm outreach because it's insanely easy. This is what network and referrals are. And every time you try and dip your toe into anything that isn't warm outreach, like cold outreach or content or running ads, it doesn't work. And the reason is it's much more difficult because you need to build more trust because the trust isn't already there. So what we're going to do is we're going to run a really short campaign, 2 people in our existing network. It's called the Pipeline Reactivator. Now, recently I was listening to a conversation between 2 friends, and one of them was asking the other about their brand new car. And the person talking about the car was so passionate. The car was a limited edition car, only 100 created in the UK, and they're only available for a limited period of time. So he was boasting about how much he spent getting one of these limited edition cars. Now, the manufacturer of that car had manufactured hundreds of thousands of other cars, and the designer of that car designed hundreds of other cars. But that car in particular, because it was only available for a limited period of time to a limited amount of people, held more value. And that's because of 2 core principles. The first is scarcity, which means a limited supply, and the second is urgency, which means a limited time period. If you use these 2 things in tandem, people who would previously not take action on your offer will all of a sudden feel compelled to, because there's the risk of FOMO, of missing out. So that's exactly what we're going to do with this Pipeline Reactivator. We're going to run a short campaign of 7 to 8 days to a limited amount of people, and we're going to make that information public. So we're going to post on our social channels to our existing network saying we're offering X amount of people this thing, and it's only available for the next 7 or 8 days, and there's limited spaces. And then we also start direct messaging people in our network. So these people may have seen our content because we posted it, but we start reaching out to them direct as well. The twist here though is that we're not pitching them because that can feel a bit icky in our network. You might not want to do that. What we're gonna do is we're gonna say, hey, I've posted this thing on my social profile. You might have seen it. Do you know anyone else who might benefit from this? But what you'll find happens is that the people you ask will say, oh yeah, I need that thing. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do a Pipeline Reactivator, and that'll get you some calls booked into the diary. Very easy to close because they're from your existing network. But we need more fuel for the fire. So this is where we set up something called the Prospecting Playbook. Now, the first thing we do is we wanna start expanding our network. If our network is the thing that brings in the easiest clients, well, what if we just make our network bigger? So that's what we're going to start focusing on. Now, what we can do is we can use Sales Navigator to create lists of our ideal prospect. Then we can use a tool called EvaBoot. And what EvaBoot will do is it will run through all of the searches you've done and it'll find people's email addresses. Then what we're going to do is we're going to use software called Instantly. And what Instantly allows you to do is to send emails to those prospects. Email marketing, I'm going to be 100% upfront with you, is nowhere near as effective as it used to be. Everyone's sending emails and they're immediately going in trying to pitch their services, asking someone to work with them. We are not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to send emails to people offering to help them. The first and really effective one that we found worked for us for years is video pitches. So we would reach out to someone and say, hey, I saw your company does XYZ. We recently helped another company do this thing. I've recorded a quick video on how we helped them achieve the result. Do you want me to send it over? So we're not asking them to get on a call with us. We're not asking for their service. We're literally offering to share information with them that would assist them. Then as we send that video, we can start a conversation and push them towards a call. We can also use a tool called Dripify, which will run through that same search that we did, send connection requests, which increases our network, and then can automatically message people. Now, a few things to consider when you're doing this type of outreach. First thing, we're not pitching anyone. Secondly, we're genuinely just trying to help them. And third, when you're sending these sorts of messages, you only ever want to send one initial message and 2 follow-ups. After 3 messages in total, your reply rate will absolutely plummet. First off, we don't annoy people, and secondly, we can send more volume, i.e. to more people, which is a better thing. So by doing that, what we're doing is we're just starting conversations with people and we're building our network. Next up, we're going to start posting content on LinkedIn. Now, the goal of this content is not to become a LinkedIn influencer with 100,000 followers. I'll be honest, the chances of that happening are insanely slim. If you look at our 4 methods of client acquisition, is our best way of nurturing our existing audience, and that's exactly what we want to do with this content. So there are 3 pillars of content that we're going to post. We're going to post content that is going to grow our network, and that's generally content that talks about stories, so how we got from X to Z. That stuff tends to get larger reach and will get more people into your network. Next up, we need to educate people. So this kind of content gets way less views, and that's okay, but it's designed to build us up as an expert in our field. And finally, we're going to post content that helps capture, yet again, brings people to us, flips the script so that they're approaching us instead of us approaching them. We'll post content that talks about an outcome, how we helped someone achieve an outcome, and then say, hey, if you want that help, all you need to do is send me a message saying growth, saying summer, saying spring, whatever the word is, and you get someone to message you saying, hey, I want more information. Now there's a specific cadence for this stuff. We don't want to capture every single day. People will get bored of us asking. There's a rule from Gary Vee, which is jab, jab, hook, which means you give, and then you ask for a take. What we're going to do is actually give, 4 gives, and then a take. So we're going to go Monday, grow, Tuesday, educate, Wednesday, capture, Thursday, educate, Friday, grow. So what most people do is they're just reliant on one element, and that means you have a one-legged stool. You're sat there constantly unbalanced, and at any point, if that leg of your stool broke, your business is dead.
It's dead, baby. It's dead.
So we want to make sure that we actually rely on all 4 methods of client acquisition to give us the most stability possible. We can also now start to automate what's working to make it scalable, consistent, and predictable. And we're going to do this with something called the Ads Masterclass. Now, LinkedIn ads is the perfect place to go for B2B. It brings in the highest intent and highest quality lead. Usually the problem with LinkedIn ads is that it's insanely expensive, and it can be very, very expensive. But the reason it's expensive is because you get quality out of it. And the reason that most people struggle with it is because they are going in just trying to pitch slap everyone. But we know better, and we're not going to do that. We're going to take that core offer that we came up with, and we're going to spend 70% of our advertising money in promoting that core offer to our ideal target audience, which you can specify on LinkedIn. So if you want company founders of companies between the size of 11 and 50, but they have to be making at least 1 million a year in turnover, otherwise it's never going to work, you can specify that. We're also going to start using ads to act as rocket fuel to that content work we were doing. So we're going to spend 20% of our advertising spend on brand awareness or thought leadership ads. What this does is it not only continues to grow our network, but also we can boost those conversion posts asking people to DM us. So we then get people DMing us, and we also get people booking directly into our calendar through that high converting landing page sequence we created earlier. And finally, I'm going to go through this in the next step in a bit more detail, but we're going to spend 10% of our advertising spend on remarketing. And this is the really, really, really important part. We had a campaign running last year on LinkedIn for ourselves, and it cost us roughly £130 to get a call booked into our diary. Now at the time, our service was worth $4,000 up front and then $2,000 a month after that. However, we then started running remarketing campaigns. There's a specific way you need to do this, which I'm going to talk you through in a second. But that remarketing campaign nearly halved our cost per call. It went from about 130 on the cold tier to about 70 to 80 on the warm tier. In fact, we actually had more calls booked from our remarketing than we did from our cold, and we spent infinitely less money because it was a warm audience. They understood us, they had trust, they had those touch points. And I'm going to explain how we do that in a second. But that's how we set up our ads. That creates a predictable, reliable, consistent stream of sales calls into our diary. But this is where most marketing advice stops. There's a huge disconnect between marketing and sales. And as a result of that disconnect, no one you get into the diary actually closes. And you go back to the drawing board thinking, oh, it kind of works, like we're getting sales calls in, but they didn't close. It was probably marketing's fault though, because no one was qualified, because no one just immediately bought like they do through network and referrals. That's what you think. So that's the next problem. They still don't have enough trust to buy. We've given enough trust to get on a call with us because we haven't gone in and immediately pitch slapping them, but we're now asking for a bigger ask and we need to build more trust. And this next point is genuinely where I finally felt like I had actually cracked the code, like I got it. Like I was Neo in the Matrix, seeing the Matrix. And the best part is, this yet again can all be automated. So now we move on to the last step, which is building trust and converting those leads. And we're going to do that with something called the Nurture Autopilot. And this is done with that remarketing I just talked about. So we're going to create a load of different audiences on LinkedIn. And the first thing we can do is we can create an audience of people who have visited our high converting landing page that we've built up because we know they're interested. But then when we've started our outreach, you're going to outreach to people and they're going to be curious and go to your website and bypass your email. And that's fine because we're going to capture them in remarketing. And all the content we're posting, people will start to get curious and they'll be like, I don't want to speak to them just yet, but I'll go check out their website. So we can capture people taking that action and start putting our content in front of them. What we can also do is create native audiences into LinkedIn. So if someone, for example, visited our company page, or if they clicked on one of our ads but didn't take the action, we can make a bucket of people who we can then remarket to. And the advantage of this is, because we clarified our messaging and have a irresistible offer that attracts people to us, the people who are clicking, we know they have the problem because they're clicking on a solution to the problem. So what we're doing is we're only remarketing to those people who are in that cycle and that section of the market where they have the problem and they're actively considering a solution. And then what we do is we put content in front of those people. Now we have an exact framework for this content as part of the Control Growth Framework, but firstly we want to build trust. So that educational content that we're already posting organically, we're just going to boost that. Then what we want to do is we want to start answering questions that people have in the buying cycle. So when we first collected all that information that we did way back in clarifying messaging, we know what questions people often ask because it's usually the same questions. Instead of them having to get on a sales call and ask us those questions, we're going to answer those questions in content and then make sure they see it. Not only are we going to answer questions though, we're also going to handle objections that commonly come up. So what we're doing is we're doing all of the stuff you would normally do on a sales call, but we're just doing it through content. By the time they get onto the call with us, it's like they've spoken and had all their questions answered. It becomes an order taking activity as opposed to an activity whereby you're having to sell them, which feels ugh. And we're also going to throw in things like testimonials, reviews, social proof, credibility, so that they know that we are trustworthy. But that's not all. What we're also going to do is use conversation ads. This is an official LinkedIn advertising thing, and we're going to take our smallest, most high intent audience, so people who visited our website in the last 7 days or clicked on our offer in the last 7 days, and we're going to automatically have LinkedIn officially send them a message that then says, hey, do you want to take action? We want to capture people in that really high intent stage and make sure we push them to a call. So we use conversation ads to, yet again, they're now in that warm part of the client acquisition model. They know who we are because they've interacted with us already, and we know one-to-one communication is the most effective method of closing someone, so we're going to do that again, fully automated. So now that we've got that set up, we're now building trust passively, but there is one last piece of the puzzle. Once someone has booked into a call with us, we then need to make sure they show up to the call. So now we're going to resolve that problem. So ideally, when we're having someone book into our calendar, we don't want them to book a week into the future because they're going to go to sleep, they're going to wake up, their state is going to change and their problems might shift. We want to make sure they only book, let's say 2 or 3 days in advance. The closer to that point of them booking the call and the call, the better. Then what we're going to do is we're going to set up a series of SMS and email automations. Again, set it up once, never worry about it again. The first sequence is just going to remind them that they actually have the call because people forget. Then what we're going to do is we're going to sell the call. Okay, so we have the call in the diary, but we're not just going to stop communication and just wait and sit there like this. We want to warm them up. So if they have a call in the diary, it's because they have intent and they're seeking a solution, and they probably have a load of questions. So the exact same thing we were doing with our content a minute ago, we are going to do with these emails. So we're going to start building trust by giving them freebies. This is called value-driven follow-up. Answer all of their questions. Do everything you would do in the sales call without them having to get on a sales call. But it's B2B. So often people will get on a call and then they have to discuss this with other people in their organization, and that's perfectly fine. We don't want that pushy sales thing of you must close on the call. All that kind of icky advice is yet again B2C advice. It's not for you. So now we have the follow-up flow, and this is just ridiculously powerful. And yet again, when we implemented this, boom, massive uptake in client acquisition. So the first thing we're going to do, let's say I've just had a call with Microsoft, and we might be working with Microsoft, but they need to go away and they need to speak to everyone in their organization to see if they're going to use our solution. Now, if they're having internal conversations, I can't influence that. Well, fortunately we can. So we have remarketing ads running, which are building trust passively with that audience. Now on LinkedIn, what you can do is you can add specific companies to that remarketing campaign. And I can just add into that campaign, hey, I want everyone at Microsoft in these job roles. So I want the CFO at Microsoft because I know they're going to be involved, and the head of HR is going to be involved because that's what our solution is. I want them to see our ads, so that they start having that trust built up with them as well. And now what happens is, in that dating analogy, the girl who we're speaking to is thinking about joining into a relationship with us. So she goes and speaks to her friends to get some advice. And all of her friends, they're like, oh yeah, I know him and I like him. That's what starts to happen. The other people in the organization who are speaking to the decision maker start positively influencing the outcome because they feel like they know you. You have other people in their existing network advising they should use you, which is hugely powerful. But that's not all. What we're also going to do is record a really quick Loom video, and this is a summary of what happened on the call. You should record this immediately after you come off the sales call, so it's all fresh in your head. And what you want to do is just repeat back to the person what it is their problems are, what their solutions are, and what you have pitched to them. And the reason we're doing this is actually threefold. Firstly, we're doing it so the person we just spoke to can watch it back and just remember, because it's very easy to not take in all the information. The second thing is we now have that as a point of reference. So in 2 weeks' time, because I speak to so many people because I have so many calls in the diary because I implemented the control growth framework, when I forget this person, because I speak to so many people, because it happens, right? I need to remember what their pains are. And I can just watch a video of me in the state that I was at the time of that call and be reminded, oh, that's all their pains, that's all their desires. And then I can, when I reinitiate the conversation, use that information to my advantage. What it will also do is guaranteed they will start sending that video to all the other decision makers. So yet again, we start influencing the other decision makers with our words, not with their words. If they then have to repeat what we're doing to their little cohort, it's not going to go as well as us doing it because we control what we say and we control the narrative there. What we're also going to do is we're going to add that person and any other decision makers into our network. So we are already posting that organic content. If we then add those people to our network, they then start to passively see that. So they see our ads and our new organic content on a daily basis. Yet again, more trust, more touch points, different contexts. We're also going to set up more automated emails, and all these are going to do are send things like case studies. So hey, here's an example similar to your example of how they achieved the result. They want to know that they are going to get the outcome you promise, and the best way to do that is to show other people who've already walked that path. We're also going to send prep emails. So what this does is it assumes the close. You assume they're going to start working with you. For them to start working with you, for most B2B relationships, not for all, they will usually have to prep something, like they'll have to get something ready, or they'll have to prepare something or change something in their organization a little bit maybe. You just want to send them emails explaining how that works. Hey, if you're going to get started with us, you need to get this thing set up. It'll make your life way easier. It'll be way easier to get started. We are also going to make sure we book in a follow-up call. Little hint here, put an emoji at the start of all of your calendar events. You'll be the only person in their calendar who has emojis, and therefore you'll stand out and they'll remember your meeting. And the reason we want to have a follow-up call is we don't want to just leave it in the ether. If we leave it in the ether, we probably won't hear back from them. But if we have a follow-up call, there's a point in the sand and we know that we're going to speak to them again. It also means that they know in a point in the future they have to make a decision at some point in time. It gives them something to work towards. And finally, we want to use something called value-driven follow-up, which is basically where every time we follow up with them, instead of being all needy, instead of being like, oh, hey, I'm circling around, we want to give. So every single time we follow up with them, we just send them more free shit. Oh yeah, I know you had a free trial. I just upgraded your free trial to the Supreme version so you can check out all the cool features. I don't normally do that for people. And remember, we're not asking, we're just giving. We're gonna attract them to us. We're not gonna ask, we're not gonna try and pull. And finally, if none of that works, that's absolutely fine. It's not over yet. We're gonna wait a period of time. And it depends on your sales cycle and how long they're in market for. But let's say 30 to 60 days on average. And then we're gonna enter them into an automatic pipeline reactivator. So the pipeline reactivator we ran to get those initial calls in the diary, we can have that running private, one-on-one, to a warm audience in the background. So it's an offer that is specific to them. It's only available to them. It's only available to a limited period of time. And usually this is called a case study offer. And yet again, because it's scarcity and urgency, it pushes people who previously would not take action to start taking action. So strategically, what we've got now is we've got that problem of our messaging being confusing. We resolved that by clarifying our messaging. And then we've got that problem of, well, we can't actually get any sales calls in the diary, and we've set up a sales call engine, and oh my God, our diary is booked with sales calls. And then we had that problem where it was like, well, all the leads are unqualified. I swear it's marketing's problem. And we're not accepting that anymore. We're joining up marketing and sales, and we're building trust and converting those prospects. And by doing that, that's how you see results like these. Now, as a quick reminder, we help B2B service providers and SaaS companies get 10 high intent sales calls every month. And the best part about that is we are so confident in our system that we offer 2 guarantees to our service. The first is a 7-day, no questions asked, full money back guarantee. And we also offer a results-based guarantee. So if you get to the end of working with us and you haven't closed a client, we will continue to work with you for free until you do. So if you want to finally crack the code and learn how to implement this system working with me one-on-one, all you need to do to learn more is DM me on LinkedIn saying details. There's a link below this video. If you're not connected, just send a connection request with the note details. And when you work with me one-on-one, I'm going to personally help you to clarify your marketing messaging, set up a sales call engine so you can get calls in predictably and reliably, and finally help you build trust and convert prospects. However, limited spaces do remain. We only take on 5 new clients every month because we're working one-on-one. We want to give the attention necessary. So if you want to learn about reserving a spot, do so now so you don't have to wait 6 months to finally implement this system. I really hope this video has helped you and given you some clarity, and I really hope you have a good day, and I'll speak to you really, really soon on LinkedIn.
True?
Yes.
Stop, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, and then you killed him?
Yeah, several times.
Dead?
Yeah, like,
What
wasn't breathing, didn't have a heartbeat.
Okay, did he have eyes?
After I took him out? Or before I took him out?
In general?
Before I took him out, he had eyes.
Does he have eyes now?
No.
Ooh.
Nom nom.
Yum yum yum.
Very tasty.
Did you
Very
fry
tasty.
them?
I had one raw because I thought
You were trying sushi
Yeah.
sort of vibe, yeah.
and then I had one that I did fry. Yeah.
With a bit of garlic,
Bit of garlic,
butter.
Yeah.
with
I used olive oil.
Oh,
I wanted to
lovely.
get crispy.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. It was nice. They were both nice. I think I preferred the fried one.
Yeah?
So I wish I had fried the other one. But
Yeah,
you just
but
get more eyes.
Next time,
Next time.
right?
Next time.
Right.
Yeah.